joining us. Nightly News with Lester Holt starts right now.
Tonight, the disturbing, never-before-seen images of the Capitol riot revealed at the impeachment trial of Donald Trump. The chilling new surveillance from inside the Capitol, the moment the pro-Trump mob smashes its way through. Then Vice President Mike Pence and his family evacuated as rioters shout, "Hang him." Hero Officer Eugene Goodman ushering Senator Mitt Romney to safety. Senators rushed out of the chamber, steps away from the mob. Democrats making their case, calling Trump the insider-in-chief. How Trump is reacting in private, why he's furious with his defense team, plus what the White House is saying about all this tonight. The major change to CDC guidelines on masks, the things you can do to reduce COVID spread by over 90%. The mission to ramp up vaccinations, new mega sites opening, among them the home of the Mets, plus pharmacies gearing up to offer in-store vaccinations within days. What you need to know. The 10-year-old girl kidnapped, the hero sanitation workers who came to her rescue. And our series on your taxes, the warning from the IRS, the scams growing during the pandemic.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. In stunning and graphic new detail, the country tonight reliving the trauma and horror of the attack on the U.S. Capitol 5 weeks ago today. On day 2 of the impeachment trial of former President Trump, House prosecutors introducing never-before-seen security camera images of the invading mobs. Members of Congress, staffers, even Vice President Pence seen rushing to safety barely ahead of the intruders. Also, never-before-released police radio traffic was played. Outnumbered officers heard desperately pleading for help. The dramatic sound and video coming as House impeachment managers began outlining their case that President Trump incited the attack on the Capitol. It never gets easier to see, but we must warn you the images are upsetting. Here's Peter Alexander with late details.
Tonight, House Democrats releasing never-before-seen video from inside the attack that they say former President Trump incited. Body camera footage from an officer being beaten by the mob. Radio calls for help.
It's now effectively a riot.
And new security footage showing those rioters entering the Capitol.
The second man through the window is wearing full tactical body armor.
The graphic presentation, including our first look at the moment Vice President Pence was evacuated from the Senate chamber. Another camera showing Mitt Romney being led away, then quickly turned around by heroic officer Eugene Goodman. And Democratic leader Chuck Schumer also evacuated, then rushed back in the opposite direction to avoid the oncoming crowd.
They were coming at the urging of Donald Trump to keep Congress, a separate branch of government, from certifying the results of a presidential election.
More new security footage of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's staffers hustling into her office minutes before rioters arrive. An aide heard whispering for help. In day 1 of their argument, Democrats pinning responsibility for last month's attack on Mr. Trump.
The evidence will show you that ex-President Trump was no innocent bystander. It will show that Donald Trump surrendered his role as commander-in-chief and became the insider-in-chief of a dangerous insurrection.
Portraying the assault on the Capitol as the culmination of a months-long campaign by the former president to rile up his supporters with what they called the big lie, using these clips of Mr. Trump.
The only way they can take this election away from us is if this is a rigged election. We're going to win this election. It's a rigged election.
These false claims about election fraud, that was the drumbeat being used to inspire, instigate, and ignite them, to anger them.
Democrats playing these videos of Trump supporters who were at the Capitol to try to prove their case.
Following my president, I thought I was following what we were called to do. President Trump requested that we be in D.C. on the 6th.
You heard it. from them. They were doing what he wanted them to do. He alone, our commander-in-chief, had the power to stop him. And he didn't.
And Democrats say Mr. Trump already knew the impact of his words, highlighting his tweet days before the election, celebrating a caravan of Trump supporters that the Biden campaign said tried to run one of its buses off the road.
His response was to tweet the video of the incident that had fight music, joke about it, and call those individuals in that incident patriots.
Democrats then pointing to this comment at the rally before the deadly riot began.
We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
He told them to fight like hell, and they brought us hell on that day.
Mr. Trump's lawyers have said their client was using the word fight in a figurative sense, that he never incited violence, accusing Democrats of ignoring this comment from that same speech.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
But tonight, those same lawyers are under intense pressure from Mr. Trump, publicly silent without his Twitter account, but privately fuming about his legal team's day one performance, according to multiple sources. One of his lawyers today dismissing that.
Did President Trump express his displeasure about your performance yesterday?
Republican Ted Cruz arguing the Democrats' case is doomed to failure, that the former president will still be acquitted.
It is reminiscent of Shakespeare, that it is full of sound and fury, and yet signifying nothing. And they're going through a political theater because for 4 years, congressional Democrats, they've been obsessed, they've been consumed with hatred for President Trump.
And late tonight, Mitt Romney described the new videos as overwhelmingly distressing and emotional, saying it brings tears to your eyes and that he looked forward to thanking Officer Goodman, but he would not predict whether it would convince any of his Republican colleagues to vote to convict. Lester?
Peter Alexander outside the Capitol, thanks. And we want to return to that newly released video today. Pete Williams has been examining it. Pete, what are you finding?
Well, Lester, we saw some new video where the House managers say the rioters first entered the Capitol. 2 windows at ground level, one broken out by throwing a piece of wood, another smashed in using a riot shield taken from a police officer, broken out, the FBI says, by a member of the Proud Boys. Investigators say that group played a key role in planning and leading the attack and assaulting police officers. The House managers say President Trump must have known the siege would turn violent because social media was so full of talk about storming the Capitol to stop the vote count. Lester.
All right, Pete, thanks very much. I want to bring in Capitol Hill correspondent Casey Hunt. Casey, what was the impact of today's presentation on senators?
Lester, it was a gut-wrenching and emotional day on the Hill. Those videos showing just how close senators came to something much worse. Mitt Romney saying he didn't realize until he saw himself in security footage today. But the question, of course, is whether this changes any minds. And in conversations I'm having with members on both sides of the aisle, there is a sense voting to acquit President Trump will be harder for some after today. But it's an uphill climb for Democrats to win over the 17 Republicans they'd need for a conviction.
Still a lot more left in this trial. All right, thank you, Casey. Kristen Welker is at the White House. Kristen, what's the president saying about all this? I know he's been relatively silent on it.
Lester, we've asked multiple times if the White House and President Biden have a reaction to the developments on Capitol Hill, and so far there's been no response. Today, Press Secretary Jen Psaki was pressed repeatedly on the matter. She noted that President Biden has addressed the attack on Capitol Hill on multiple occasions. But with the White House trying to counter-program the trial, she says they won't be commenting on daily developments. Lester.
All right, Kristen, we'll let you get out of the snow. Thanks. In just 60 seconds, the CDC's new guidance on best mask protection, plus thousands of pharmacies about to offer COVID vaccines. We're going to tell you what you need to know.
My plaque psoriasis, the itching, the burning,
the stinging. My skin was no longer mine.
My psoriatic arthritis made my joints stiff, swollen, painful.
Emerge Tremfya. With Tremfya, adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can uncover clearer skin and improve symptoms at 16 weeks. Tremfya is also approved for adults with active psoriatic arthritis.
Serious allergic reactions may occur. Tremfya may increase your risk of infections and lower your ability to fight them. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, or if you had a vaccine or plan to.
Tremfya. Emerge Tremfyant. Janssen can help you explore cost support options.
Want to build a gaming business that breaks the internet? That means working night and day and delegating to an experienced live bookkeeper for peace of mind.
Your books are all set.
So you can finally give John some attention.
Trusted experts, guaranteed accurate books. Intuit QuickBooks Live.
The CDC is out tonight with important new guidance on the use of double masks, something a lot of us have been talking about lately. The White House is also considering mailing masks to many Americans in a way that would target schools or vulnerable communities. Aaron McLaughlin has more.
Tonight, the CDC says double masking offers more protection against COVID-19, blocking more than 90% of the virus.
With cases, hospitalizations, and deaths still very high, now is not the time to roll back mask requirements.
The CDC also recommending Americans wear masks with nose wires and to tie knots on the ear loops of surgical masks for the best fit. The newly released research comes after months of criticism of the CDC being slow to issue official mask recommendations. And when it comes to double masking, the CDC says wear a surgical mask like this one for the first layer with a cloth mask on top. University studies clearly show the benefit to masks as they capture the droplets from your breath, cough, or sneeze, helping block particles from escaping. Researchers say there's even more you can do to help make sure your mask fits correctly.
If you live in a cold environment and your glasses or sunglasses are fogging up when you're outside, that means that air is flowing up around the mask and into your eyelids. That means that air going both ways, in and out of the mask, is leaking.
But with a new, more contagious variant projected to dominate by March, the CDC is underscoring that any mask is better than no mask. The N95 mask offers the best protection overall, but unless you're caring for someone who's sick, the CDC still recommends saving them for healthcare workers. Lester?
All right, Aaron, thank you. As more states open COVID vaccine mega sites, supplies continue to lag amid new fears about super spreader events. As of tonight, almost 45 million vaccine shots have been given, and COVID hospitalizations continue to drop, just over 79,000 now. With more, here's Miguel Almaguer.